This is where we find out what Puny Couch has got in him.
All right, welcome to another episode of Puny Couch. Today's guest, a staple of the punk rock scene in Sarnia, Ontario since the early 1990s. We're happy to be joined by three impotent males, also known as Tim. Thanks for coming on, boys.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
For the one true Tim. There's another band in London that's trying to take our Tim crown. They're called Tim as well, but no, we are the one true Tim, and they are just the whatever Tim. Just get that right out of the way.
They're not impotent, though.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
the impotent thing is more like a lot of punk bands take themselves real serious, right? And like this. So way back when we were young, the idea was just to have, super stupid name, super serious music. That was like the idea. And then if people couldn't pass the stupid name, then fuck them. We don't need them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, take us back to that. I want to know the start of it all, Wes. Back into the 90s. Take us back to the start.
Well, so like this band originally started with my brother Luke, a guy named Greg Earl, who's actually a world famous jazz bass player now, but at the time he was a death metal drummer. We were in high school, and he's from Sarnia as well, and a guy named Kyle McAdam. And then there was a guy who's a friend of ours, still a friend of mine, whose name is Tim, and initially the band was called Tim, and we used to play in the high school scene, because back in those days, kids would put on shows here in town where there'd be like 400, 500 kids at the shows, like, because back then there wasn't a lot to do, there was no internet or anything, and people who didn't even listen to punk rock would come out to the show just because it was something to do on a Friday. So we'd play around town, and eventually it was like the band kind of fizzled out. And at the time, the whole thing was we would play the songs. At the end of the show, this guy named Tim would come out, and he'd be wasted out of his mind because, again, we were very young at the time. And he would read poetry over, well, we just basically made noise, right? And like throw himself around the stage in a way that predated Jackass, you know what I mean? And people would just watch the spectacle of him doing this, and that's what our band was about. So that fizzled out, high school ended, and then I don't know if everybody remembers, there's a punk band from Canada called DBS. I don't know if you remember that band, but they're from Vancouver. And there was a summer when they asked me if Tim would do a show, and I said yeah, even though there was no band at the time. It was just me, right? Completely forgot about it. And the week before the show, I had someone, it was a guy who used to have a skateboard shop downtown who was booking the show. He said, "Oh, you guys ready for the show?" And I was like, oh my God. So that's when I hooked up with a guy named Jeff Tatchuk, and Jeff was our first original drummer, just an awesome guy. Rest in peace, Jeff, because, we lost him a couple years ago. But, he was a really talented dude. And when he did, he allowed us to like kind of excel as a band at that point and play outside of Sarnia and do all these things, playing with a guy like him. And had my friend named Carl play in the band. And we just went from there and started to play shows quickly outside of Sarnia. And then within 1 year, we were playing, used to be a thing, I think they still do it in Toronto. It's nowhere near as big as it used to be, called the Canadian Music Week. And back then you would have to like submit and then get chosen and go. It was like a pretty exciting time. I think I was 1 year out of high school at the time, and we ended up going to Toronto and actually getting a record deal. And then at the time back then we were signed to a label called Raw Energy, and Raw Energy was distributed through EMI Records and A&M Records, and then it was Caroline Records in the US and Australia and stuff. And what I always thought was pretty cool is because like back then you'd have your little indie punk labels, and they'd work with bigger labels to get their distribution out. So working with various labels from our small Canadian label to get the album out globally at the time, which is so weird to think about in 2026. And what I always thought was cool about it, though, in Europe, we were on a label that was called Black Mark. And if anyone knows what Black Mark is, because I've always been big into metal my whole life, Black Mark is the label that the bands like Mayhem were on, and the different black metal bands were on there, that when you hear about the stories about the church burnings and the bands murdering each other in Norway, it's always kind of fun that in the 90s we were on the same label as those guys.
That's really cool.
So like, then...
Did those labels like produce your first self-titled album?
No, so we would... The way it worked is like when we got with the label, they said like, you got to work with like real people at this point, right? So we went and recorded the album, the first album, which is I guess the one on the table there, with a guy named Pete Hudson, who was a pretty well-known recording engineer back in the 80s and 90s, did like 13 Engines albums, Jack Soul albums, like a lot of big Canadian bands. So we got to go out and work with him, and work with a guy named Peter J. Moore, who did the mastering for U2. And like I say, it was a really exciting time. There was an actual industry for bands back then. So like we kind of worked with the label to do all of that. And then once all that was done, then the label, because Raw Energy is still a thing, but not really active now. So like then Raw Energy, what they would do is they would go to various larger labels and they would set up distribution. And then back in the day, like one label would like handle this territory and another label would handle this territory. So like that's why initially it was like A&R in Canada and the US. And then when A&R changed to something else, they switched over to EMI. So if you ever look at our discs, and some of them say A&M, some of them say A&R, some of them say Black Mark, etc., like that, because they would send like the glass masters, say, to Europe, and then Black Mark would then produce the album over there, right? Oh, okay. And then they would have to send us things, so we'd be like, yes, that looks proper, okay, you can produce that, and stuff like that. So like, yeah, I don't know, I guess it was just it was a really different time to what it is for anyone in a band now. So that was kind of a neat experience.
During that time in the mid 90s, like how was that process recording an album? It's like 30 years ago, right? So
yeah, that was all like analog, 24-inch tape. There was no computer screens. Like, well, there was, but it was only during the mastering time part when everything got transferred to DAT, but like everything was done analog back then. And yeah, it was neat. Like I got to use like amps from a band called Monster Voodoo Machine, and it was neat.
Did you find being on the Raw Energy?
They take care of you, man. They like you don't. You're a little kid.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
like,
say.
and they just kind of show you the way. And
The overall
there's
experience.
it used to be that like a band, not us or anyone else, but like you could have a band in your town, and you could like almost build like a little business around it, and you could have like the people who want to come out and sell merch with your band, and the people who even want to come out and be like, oh, I'll be your guitar tech and all this stuff. And everyone would just do it for fun back then. You know, that's what I miss. I miss seeing like some band roll in where they've got like 4 people doing merch, but it's really just a bunch of their buddies out having a good time at the bar. Hopefully we make some money, you know?
And at that time,
that's what's missing to me now compared to back then.
At that time as well, it was you and 2 other members, and now you got Jeff and Wally.
Yep.
When did you guys join in?
Halloween of 2002.
He'll know, like he's like he knows the dates of everything.
2002?
So that's
Okay.
that's how long you've played with the band.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was another drummer that couldn't make it to a jam or something, and
Well,
you asked me like, oh, can you just fill in? This guy can't make it. I'm like, all right. Sure, and then just kind of went from there. We hit it off, really.
Yeah.
So quite a long time still, yeah.
We haven't had a lot of members over the years. So another guy named Mike played bass in the band from, like 1996 until, I don't know, 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah, it definitely was a challenge at first because I'm nowhere near have any metal experience at all, and
that's what I was going to get into next.
But you know, it's definitely it's grown on me and improved my playing. So I love it.
I always think for you, it's like allowed you to like go back to something from your teenage years that you were involved in, kind of, right? Like he plays in like every good cover band in town. I don't know if people probably are like
just a couple bands.
Well, I don't know.
Wheelhouse and Johnny Five.
Yeah.
Well, touching on the local scene, you've obviously seen it change throughout the years, playing all the way from the 90s. So what's your experience like on the ever-changing punk scene in Sarnia?
So like when I got into punk rock in Sarnia, it was probably around 1986. Like punk rock at the time was a totally different thing. It's like way more based off of like bands like GBH and The Exploited and, you know, just like 70s, like early hardcore, Discharge, like lots of that kind of stuff. And like I think for punk, in my experience, because a lot of people, like Sarnia's biggest punk scene comes from a generation after me, and it's almost like amazing that ever even happened here because it coincided with like the days when the Motley Crue ruled the world, you know, like that was when the first punk scene I was into, and it was like a direct like this to that. Also a weird thing is like back then you would consider like Jane's Addiction a punk band. Like anything that wasn't glam rock was basically punk rock, you know, like that's how people kind of thought.
Whatever was different.
Right. And then grunge hit. And now all of a sudden all the stuff like Jane's Addiction in this got relabeled as grunge. It's just like what I saw it as. And then it killed metal, right? Like it just killed metal. Like the biggest tour the year before, 91 or whatever, was the Metal Titans tour with like Megadeth. And that's where Alice in Chains did their first tour. And it just killed that, right? So why this matters to Sarnia. So like I'm in high school watching this, and I go through like 2 years where there's nothing for me, like nothing musically for me. Like I was into Nirvana, I was into grunge, but I missed Slayer and I missed those metal bands in this. And so when NoFX hit, right, that's when in Sarnia that the real big punk scene happened, right? And I saw the initial thing of like all those younger kids coming out to the shows we were playing, which was like the tail end of that original thing.
Yeah.
And then we kind of got a second wind in town to play for all these new kids who were getting into it. And then I moved out of town, but I always kept an eye on Sarnia. And what's always been so cool about the Sarnia scene is that people are super industrious and the kids always put on their own shows, which I kind of mentioned we were doing back in the day, right? Mm-hmm. So like that's something that I can say I noticed is that it was like Sarnia had a kind of a punk scene that predated my punk scene. Then it had like this bigger punk scene when we were in high school. You probably remember it was a really rough punk scene. Like it was like people walking around with like knives and putting like razor blades in their boots punk scene, right? Then after that, it turned into that skate punk scene. And for us as a band, that's in town here. That's just allowed us to keep going through all the years and all the years and all the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
you've probably seen so many venues come and go too in Sarnia. Eh? Like, what is there any that you look back on that may not be here anymore that you're like, damn, that was a good venue to play shows?
Yeah, there was like a place for a long time. Like these aren't the best places though that were around.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a place downtown for a long time that was called the Pit. And it started out like the first show we played there, the walls weren't even, it was just like no drywall.
Where was it located?
Oh, it was right on, all the places would always be down on Christina.
there?
Yeah. Like I couldn't tell you what, like maybe that Starlight place or whatever is what it was. Like things look so different now.
Yeah.
And then like down the street from that was a place called Sparky's. That's where we were doing our first shows with this band. The big shows that always happened back in the day were at the Polish Hall, right? And there's videos of this. There's videos of a band called Bloody Circumcision playing BC, playing at the Polish Hall. And they were wild events, right? And we used to have so many of them, and they were so crazy that I was there. I went to see the Matadors do a, what do you call it? Like a charity event thing, and everybody's there. It's all chill. Everyone's drinking in this. I go over to talk to the guy who runs the place. I'm thinking, hey, maybe I can throw a show here for old time's sake. I'm like, dude, and I'm like almost 50. I'm like with my wife. Hey man, I'm this and this and this. The second I said punk rock, that guy's like, nope, not having it. And I was like, what? From when? And he's like, back in the day. I was like, I got talking to him. I'm like, I had to have a conversation with the guy. I'm like, well, we're almost 50 now. Like, people are gonna get babysitters. Like,
It'll be okay.
You're not gonna deal with underage drinking at this one, okay? Don't worry.
How about you, Wally? When you look back on some of the venues that have come and gone, anything stick out to you that you miss, or?
Well, really the Trinity Lounge, because that was the place that was around when I first moved here. That was a good place.
Yeah, but that wasn't the 90s. That was later.
Yeah.
No, like I moved to Sarnia, 2013?
I don't know. The Trinity Lounge, you guys were around back then.
Oh, yeah.
They might have
Trinity's
done a
great,
couple
yeah.
shows in
Oh, yeah.
99 at the Trinity Lounge.
That was our scene growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trinity
Well,
was
this
huge.
is where I remember meeting you,
Yeah.
you back then.
Yeah.
And like I met you later through the letdowns, but
Just a great spot and community for the punk
Yeah, no,
scene.
Street Out used to be a strip club, so the mirrors, like,
yeah, you know
Perfect setup.
what's an absolute tragedy is that they destroyed the room.
Oh, no way.
Like, because that room was the kind of room.
I apologize for that. I'm just kidding.
No, why were you part of it?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. All I know is I've had multiple people tell me that the room's been gutted, right? And to me, it doesn't matter who it was or whatever. Because like my mind just thinks.
You just mean like the renos they're doing.
Like, you know, the old style strip club that was in there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
It's gone, is my understanding.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think anything's even.
Yeah, it's
going
just
there.
an
Yeah.
empty
Yeah.
room at this point,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But like that room was so nice and so made of wood and had so many, like, you know, that upper area
Oh,
where
yeah.
you could sit where
Nice seats,
yeah,
comfy, yeah.
and then that even the
Cushions.
walled off with glassed area and all
Such
that.
a unique venue, right?
You could have just been like, here, come film here, come film here,
Oh,
come
yeah.
film here, and made money off that room.
Yeah.
That's a great spot.
Had bands play there. I can't believe that was a loss to this city.
Yeah, and
historically.
once it went away too, there was kind of like that couple years where there
wasn't
was
much.
nothing. I feel like AJ's kind of took that role a little bit recently.
Well,
Yeah.
AJ's has really come out for not just the punk scene, but for people who do original music of any type in this town. AJ's has definitely stepped up to the plate and started hitting home runs, right? So
Yeah.
Open jams and stuff too.
everything about it. It's like, like how can a place like that fail? Like you can go there and see one night's a hip hop night. You can go to a karaoke night. You can go there, like, it's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
Metal night.
Yeah, it's awesome that there's a
Right.
bar still doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I love
Punk.
Looking back on a lot of your shows, is there any memorable bills or anything that you've been a part of that you're like, fuck, that was a good one?
What's your favorite one?
That one we played with Michael Graves.
Actually, the very first show I played, it would be at Jimmy Jazz in Guelph.
Oh yeah.
It's where I met guys in Gag Order and the Stand Against Fear, and it was just the first time I realized, holy shit, this punk rock, everyone's actually super kind and everyone gets along and they cheer each other on. And you're not used to that,
It was kind of like your intro to the scene, yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time, and
People are not so judgmental.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why we do this instead of doing other things, because like I always say with the band now, with all the years and all the members, to me, it's more about like how we're just hanging out today, like how we're just hanging out with you guys today. That's what the band's about. Like the music's like really secondary to that part of it.
Touching on the evolution of it all, like 30 years, like, musically, it started out kind of more raw punk rock in the 90s. How much of that has changed based on, the production and maybe the technology, or how much is like your actual style? Like obviously you guys have a lot of metal influences.
Yeah. So I guess maybe we work kind of strange as a band, like in the way we write. You know what I mean? So like the way that, so I play multiple instruments and I play drums. I don't play drums anything like him, but I know how to write notation for drums, and like I have a I went to school for music. So anyways, I know how to do that. So when I write things and when I hear things in my head, it's complete with drums and everything. Like it's just, this is what I hear, and then when I hear it, if it's not like that, it doesn't sound right to me, right? So a long time ago, it would be like me and you sitting there and me like going, go like this, go like that, go like this. And so at this point now, it's a lot of like, I'll make a demo and then it'll be very complete. But then when I give it to him, what he does is he like, I always think in my head, he Wallingtons it. It gets Wallington, and then I get it back and it's always better, right? So I think that's a big difference in how the band's worked over the years. And then I think earlier in the band, there was a lot more of like people putting their influences into what the band does. But for me, doing the band for so many years, like I made a post the other day, it's funny. I know exactly how the band sounds, because to me, it's like there's a sound that we have and a thing that we do. So that thing has kind of remained the same. I would just say like so previously when we were playing with Mike's very into skate punk, and I like skate punk, but I don't listen to NoFX or nothing. Like I don't listen to Rancid or anything like that. Right. So I would always be trying to like appease people's what they're into. You know what I mean? With Murph's just into playing sick bass, right? So as long as it's stuff you could play sick bass over, it's kind of good. And then that's allowed me to kind of like, to Wally's dismay a little bit, I just found out well, how I wrote a song where you're like, really? I've only done that 2 times to you. But like, it's allowed me now with the new material to just kind of do whatever I want now. So all I look for is if, like he said, he's like, yo, that's a little much. And then I can be like, okay, well, now I know the limit, like we'll stay away from the limit or something like that. But that's how the band's changed. Like in a weird way, it's always been almost like a solo project, because I've always been primarily writing all the music, but I don't think of it like that. Like I can't do it without other people. So
yeah. Do you see the sound evolving anymore into the metal sound, or are you sticking?
No, like I think with the new material, I just want to, like I said, I come from like a background where I know how to like arrange for like an orchestra. So it's like I never really kind of get fascinated with like 3-chord punk rock and like what you can do with just like a heavy metal guitar and a 3-piece band. But now I'm kind of like breaking rules that I have for myself, like you can only record something that you can actually play live. But now I'm kind of like opening myself up to, I'm going to put like 8 layers of guitars on this and I'll figure it out live. But like, I'm just opening up. Like I'm starting to get into a lot of electronics, like adding a lot of samples you've gotten.
With
It's
the,
not here today, but the
no,
SPDS. So I think we're always trying to be current with what technology will offer us and incorporate that into the band. But I think the idea behind the band and like how we still play these songs that some of these songs we play, not the last two, I guess. So then of the next two songs we played, the first one, I think I wrote in like math class when I was 17, you know? So like that part of it's always been the same, because if I don't tell you when the song was written, you'll never know if it was one from like 1995 or if it was one from 2006, unless it's like some of the really heavy stuff that we're doing now. But
Nice.
because like it's clearly, is it even punk, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well,
it's death skate.
well, it's
not
cool that you're
skate punk.
using the new technology and stuff to kind of keep everything fresh and keep it interesting. I'm really happy you guys are here. Let's go to a couple more songs.
Sure.
What the fuck? This individual is something you have not seen. In the street, these miles are up on some numbers have been seen. Exploitation in general. These kids are moral reform. Corporations will own our soul. Exploitation will see the fear. Stealing you fear most. Really feeling our future. Freedom to expose. Never the new ideals. We can't coexist. If we can't respect each other, how can we exist? Industry, exploitation, loss of human rights. I cannot stand still. I can sleep at night.
All right. Right on. This next question's for all you guys. When you guys look back on the 1990s and the early 2000s, what are some albums that really stick out to you guys that have that you think are just like staples that you guys loved listening to back then?
Myself, I would say what got me really into playing bass was the Chili Peppers, and Mother's Milk and Blood Sugar Sex Magic were.
Yeah.
I wore those out. So.
Big Flea fan, eh?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like when I just think of like 90s albums that were real, like when the first one that comes to my mind is that band Snot with their self-titled Snot album. And they're back together now touring with this guy who rips it singing their songs, which they're super difficult to sing. But yeah, I think that was probably an album that slipped by most people. They were like a punk band, right? Epitaph wanted to sign them. They have a song about Mr. Brett where they're like, because Mr. Brett, we can plainly see we won't keep you living in luxury. Some people say something, some say mistake. You've become what you used to hate. Like they're like a punk band, but then they lean really hard into like funk and kind of hard rock and, you know, like kind of the thing I mentioned earlier about like, you know, Chains Addiction used to be a punk band. Like this band would have been considered a punk band back in the day, but I think by today's standards, you'd almost say they're like a new metal band. But.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
What about you, Wally?
For albums in the late 90s, early 2000s, like Mr. Bungle, California was a huge impact on me. I really liked System of a Down, Toxicity, when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to.
Huge.
Yeah.
That was
Groundbreaking, yeah.
And throughout the 90s, I loved listening to Primus a lot. Still do.
In one ear and out the other.
Should I tell them about Primus guitar?
Primus guitar?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like how to play, like anyone can play Primus guitar instantly.
Oh,
Well, I'll show you quick.
well, the fact that I play drums, it makes it easier to slap with that rhythm and all that.
Oh, I got none of this. Can you play a Primus bass line a little bit? Watch. I'm going to show you. I don't know how to play any Primus, but I'm going to show you a trick about Primus. But he's great. Like, I'm not knocking him. Okay, so
Well, it works.
whatever one. It doesn't matter. Primus guitar always like... See? It's Primus guitar. Wish I could make all that money doing it. This is Primus guitar.
Shout out Primus.
So what's your favorite Primus album?
Sailing the Seas of Cheese.
No, I like
Frizzle Fry for me.
I like Primus. Like, there's Primus songs I like, but I just can't get over the fact that it's like anti-guitar on Primus. Like it's always just like here's like the Larry Long.
Buckethead was a fucking pretty good guitarist.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I saw him open up for Primus.
Did Buckethead play in
No,
Primus?
no.
No, I
Yeah,
was
he
just saying I
He
saw him
did.
open up for
They
him.
played together, but not in the actual band, did he?
Yeah,
No,
he
no,
played.
no.
There was
yeah.
at least one
Oh,
part of the era, I think.
There was an
Yeah,
era.
Claypool and I think Brain, the drummer at the time in the late 90s, was on a Buckethead album.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Folks just call him Buckethead.
That's the song. That's Claypool
Yeah.
singing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was born in a coop, raised in a cage. Children fear him, critics rage. He's half alive, he's half dead. Folks just call him Buckethead.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that album.
No, but I mean Primus sucks, right? Primus sucks.
Well, keeping on the influence train,
They say that about themselves. Primus sucks. The fans. Primus sucks.
you got your guys' music. Obviously, you're kind of classified as punk rock, but there's clearly a lot of metal undertones there.
Well, that's like me.
Yeah. So, like, what are some of your metal influences?
Me, I've always just liked metal. Like I got into. I think I got Ride the Lightning the year it came out. It's old, and then I got into like Deicide and Cannibal Corpse in 1991. So like I've been into real heavy stuff since early on. I don't know, just always liked it. Really liked Pantera when metal was dead. They were great. I don't know if like I'm probably the only one here who knows like hold up, who knows like the modern metal scene. But right now, I mean I listen to all genres of music. But if you want to listen to technicality and musicianship, modern technical death metal is probably, you know, a band like Archspire is something you've never even heard in your life, and then you can go see them do it live.
Where are they from?
They're from Vancouver, and I mean a lot of their songs are 320 BPM. Interesting band. They where most bands play and they listen to each other live, they're all on in-ears live, and then they're all playing along to a recording. So the only live person they hear on their in-ears is themselves, because their music's so technical that if someone was to fall off, they'll just train wreck. So they have to be like when you see them live, you're hearing them live, but like that dude playing guitar is only hearing himself. And the rest of it's a recording in his earphones. So this is kind of a weird way to do things. But super modern, you know.
That's cool. What about you, Wally? Any metal influences or?
Oh, probably the biggest band for me was Pantera. Yeah. Love Vinnie Paul, his drumming, and yeah.
My ons was Mastodon and Gojira. I would say those were the ones that kind of got me listening to metal a little bit. And
Mastodon's one of my favorite bands probably ever.
And back to like the new stuff your guys are listening to. You gave that shout out to that Vancouver band. Is there anything else that's catching your attention these days?
Oh,
that you guys
yeah,
like?
there's tons. There's like, and to do stuff that's not metal is like, there's a band called Henge that's from over in Europe that is just a trip and a half of a band. Really talented. I don't even know how you describe it. They're like kind of like Guar, but they're totally different than Guar. They're not like a scary thing. They're almost like these weird hippies from outer space. Well, they say they're
kind
from
of a tamer
space.
thing.
Yeah.
They dress up and everything?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The keyboard player is two of them are outer space monsters.
Well, the frontman, I think he wears like a plasma ball on his head.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Henge, they're great. Who else is great? Lots of really good bands. There's a
Lambrini Girls.
Lambrini Girls are
awesome.
super duper good.
Big take energy, big take energy. How big is that dick in reality? It's not a big take energy, big take energy. Oh my god, you think you're absolutely everything. Buy another big.
Good. That's like a real punk band too, right? Like there's a lot of bands say we're punk, but like Lambrini Girls is a proper punk band. It wouldn't matter what they come out in the 70s, a proper punk rock. Yeah, that's a great one. And then I'm gonna say their name not wrong. Days Can't the band from Mexico, the one. I can't think of their name, so I shouldn't even have brought it up. It's Days Can't, isn't it? You can look up KEXP and then just put DESCANTE. And this band that's from Mexico, again, that's like not a metal band or a punk band, and they're super good. I can't say that I listen to a lot of punk, modern punk. Like a lot of it's just really derivative of things that came before it or whatnot. But you know, there's a lot of bands out there that I don't like, Mutoid Man and stuff, that kind of have like one foot squarely in punk and then the other foot squarely in almost like metal, which is, I find, very interesting nowadays. And that seems to be a lot of a thing. And that just made me think of something. When I say it to him, he's just going to go, "Oh, right." And then a band that nobody knows, Maximum the Hormone.
Oh yeah, they're really good.
Yeah,
From Japan.
If you've never heard this band, Maximum the Hormone, and you like punk or metal, or if you like music
Or pop.
or like, it's crazy. This band, they do not sing in English. They are called Maximum the Hormone. You should check them out when you finish watching this. Because
Sounds cool.
well, yeah, you're just gonna sit there and go, "I've never ever seen anything like that in my life." Like, it's pretty crazy. It's a band that what do they seamlessly cross over in single songs. Like,
Oh yeah, I think one of the first songs you showed me, it was like 3-4 different genres in one.
yeah, it's hard to explain, but it never seems like they're genre jumping. Like,
But they're essentially metal though.
you could say that, or like they also have like a real
Experimental metal.
well, like, you know, like a Dag Nasty style sing along punk rock angle. They do a lot of that too, right? Like a lot of like hey parts and stuff. So yeah, that's like it. A lot of bands from Japan are really good. There's a band called Hanabi. I don't know if you've heard this band. It's like super heavy metal band, and like just little tiny Japanese girls all like decked out in, and I've looked into it, like decked out into, I guess, what would be the Japanese version of crust punk in a way, like, you know what I mean? But their version is just like bananas, like rainbow bright crazy colors and stuff. But they're a monstrous band. They just did a big American tour last year, and so you'll be hearing more of them.
Well, to finish this off, what would you say is like the creme de la creme albums then for punk and metal production wise? When you listen to a record, you're like, that is just a great sounding record.
The band Igor, which I didn't mention yet. I don't know if you've heard of Igor, but holy smokes. Igor is, there's nothing else like it.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. It's like a project. It's like a metal band that's kind of got they're also a classical, like choral. It's very hard to explain, but it's a project that comes out of a studio in France. And I forget what the guy's name who does it all is, but that's probably some of the most interesting production out there right now, because this guy went around and recorded things in churches for this album, recorded things like it was a recording project. So that album is probably, production wise, if people are into production, you should check that one out. Yeah,
Cool. Are you guys all on the same board with that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
like
Igor's awesome.
yeah, like I think it's not, you can't even describe it as a type of music other than to say that they definitely play death metal.
Well, like they have a female singer that'll sing opera and then she'll do like a death metal voice.
Yeah, it's really difficult to explain, because like the people playing on the album are absolute, like you don't get better, you just get different than that, you know?
And staying with the production stuff then, what are some of your great favorite producers of all time? Or like, let's just say favorite producers, but then also I'm curious, if you had free budget, free reign, and you could work with anybody in the world, who would you want to sit down with?
Wow. You know, like to me, it's not. It's like a thing you probably do. If, like, I don't know him that well, but if I was to hit him up, is from Change of Heart. Oh, I was just thinking his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. Ian Blurton. Always have thought Ian Blurton's albums sound great. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a big Canadian artist, been around forever. Did a band called Change of Heart. I think he had a band called Come On for a long time. Kind of like just a rock legend. And every time I've ever heard anything that guy's recorded, I've just been like thumbs up, which is kind of neat because, like I say, that's not like going Rick Rubin or something. Like, I think a band can hit that because he's an Ontario guy. Like a band could probably hit that guy up and be like, "What's your schedule like?"
That's cool. It's funny that you said Rick Rubin because that's
Where I would have
Rick Rubin doesn't produce though. Rick Rubin just walks in and tells you that don't do that.
He's just a creative force, right?
Yeah,
he was
Chili
definitely
Peppers.
creative on Blood Sugar.
he has good
Definitely.
taste. He has
Toxicity.
good taste. That's
Yeah,
what
he's
it
not
is.
very technical. I think he probably know more than he does
Oh well, no, but like, well,
in terms of gear, obviously.
okay. So I would say to you, like, he has a reputation for not knowing how to actually record anything. Like he doesn't like know how to sit there and mix or anything, and that's why he just. My understanding from reading, like recording industry shit, is that he just like he's good at being like not that.
Very
And sometimes
creative
that's-
mind.
He's just the guru of production. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that really is production, and the rest is engineering. But you know, a lot of producers also engineer because they want it to sound a certain way.
I will say everything he touches though does sound fucking good.
Yeah.
I really like.
well,
There's just a creative
except
force
for-
to him.
Yeah, I really like that Strokes new album he touched on. I, thought
I
it
mean,
was
he
sick.
touched that Metallica album. It sounded like shit. But
Yeah. Well,
Toxicity you mentioned.
yeah.
on the
no,
Chili
I'm
Peppers.
making a joke. Yeah, no, he does. He's,
Yeah.
He is. He's kind of like.
Maybe not everything,
I mean,
but
like, well, he's one of those people. Like you could just be like Rick Rubin recorded it, and that's like more important than who the band is.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So.
Well, we're excited to hear these last two songs. Let's wrap it up. We're really happy you guys came
Yeah,
on.
thanks.
Oh,
Appreciate
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yep, thanks.